Many nonprofit organizations that I know of are struggling right now during the coronavirus pandemic to stay afloat financially, to fundraise, and to continue their missions. I've seen this firsthand in my own organization and in dozens that we're working with in my community and across the country as well. So in this video, I wanted to share just a couple of the strategies that we are trying out in the hopes of adapting to this situation and, we hope, surviving it. Welcome back. My name once again is Amber Melanie Smith. I'm a nonprofit founder, executive director, and I make these videos here on YouTube to help aspiring changemakers with tips and strategies to help you make an impact and live a life of purpose. I've got lots of videos on how to start a nonprofit, how to fundraise for a nonprofit, how to make an impact outside of the nonprofit world and through volunteering and service and social enterprise. So I hope that you'll check out the rest of my channel and go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that we can stay connected. Whew, this is a hard time for everyone and definitely for nonprofits as well. Nonprofits have always historically been expected to do a lot for the community on very, very little. But now many organizations are being looked to as leaders to step up to feed people who are hungry, and way more of them, to make sure people are getting access to healthcare and medical care, to making sure people have roofs over their heads. And at the same time, these organizations are having to do so with reduced donations, reduced volunteers, reduced grants, and possibly not access to government support. Nobody knows what the future holds, but I wanted to come on here and at least share a couple of the things that we are doing in my organization that might be helpful to others. I'll also include a few tips and strategies that I've heard of as working for some other organizations as well. So here we go, nonprofit pandemic survival tips. Tip number 1, and this feels a little counterintuitive because of course it's scary to admit that you are scared and that you don't know if your organization will survive. But the first tip is to engage your donors and supporters even more than you were in the past, especially if you have more time during the day because some of your other work has halted as a result of the pandemic. Now is a great time to be doing personal emails, personal phone calls, Zoom or whatever teleconferencing software you use, video chats with your supporters and donors. My organization has started doing this once a week with our supporters of all kinds, of all levels, as well as our corporate sponsors, to just keep them in the loop, share what is going on, what we are working on, how we are pivoting and trying to adjust to this new situation. And I've also heard of other organizations doing the same thing, and what it really allows your supporters to do is feel closer to your work and connected to you, and like they, if they are in a position to do so, could be a part of the solution of helping you stay afloat. This one's part of it, but you want to be doing a lot of storytelling. Share even the smallest stories of someone you ran into on the street who you just felt this great kindness towards, and they were kind back at you, or a beautiful bird on your windowsill. Even the smallest of stories, you want to be sharing the impacts that you're making, the human connections that you are experiencing during this time, to put some good news out there in the world, because we're hearing a lot of the bad and not enough of the good. Now, this next one is a little tricky depending on your mission, but if you can get creative and think of a way to do it, I highly encourage you to do so. You want to find a way for your existing volunteer base to still support you virtually or remotely from home. Don't forget, and I've talked about this in some of my other videos as well, volunteers want to support you, and sometimes they are also donors. People love to give their time, and when they get invested in your cause, those same people also love to give their dollars. I mean, think about it. If you have a friend or a family member that you spend a lot of time with, and then they came to you and asked for your help financially, you wouldn't say no because you'd already spent time with them. No, you'd be more likely to give your financial support as well because you love them and you want to help them out. Same thing applies here. You want to be able to keep your volunteers who love you and want to help you engaged. So a couple of ideas on how to do this. My organization I've said this in past videos, we are all about mobilizing volunteers. So we have come up with a remote volunteer project campaign where we've got about a dozen different ways that you can help out different causes from our community from home, whether that's using materials you have at home or kid-friendly projects. We've got folks doing cards for kids in the hospital. We've got people writing letters to isolated seniors. We have the super cool artistic project where you can paint a portrait of a pet who needs adoption to help raise awareness about that pet. We've got people making calls to seniors. We have people doing internet research to help people understand the causes in the community. There's so much that you can do from a computer or from your homes. You just have to get creative and give your volunteers a way to stay involved, even if they're staying at home. The third strategy is, of course, to make sure you are familiar with how any available government support for small businesses and qualifying nonprofits works. I know this one's tricky because some of the money has run out for support for small businesses and nonprofits, but it sounds like they might be granting an additional layer of support soon. So just take this time to get familiar with the small business loans available and any paycheck protection programs if your nonprofit happens to have staff and you would qualify for that. Get familiar and gather your paperwork now because there is a chance that you might be able to apply for this support in the future. I know for my organization, we use QuickBooks and donor management software called Little Green Light. We also do our payroll through a vendor, so it was very easy for us to just download the paperwork that we needed to be able to submit our application. Now, a caveat to this, you want to, of course, be familiar with the government support available, but you also want to, once again, be communicating transparently with your donors and with local foundations and any corporate sponsors that you might have a relationship with, because these organizations are trying right now to research and figure out the most effective ways to help the nonprofits in their community. You want to make sure that they're aware of you, that they know your needs, and if the situation is dire, that they know that. Now is the time to be open and honest about that, for sure. This strategy is something that my organization and some others that I know of have also implemented. If you are in a position to be able to do so, have your team work remotely, of course, and if you're doing that, ramp up communications and staff meetings. Previously, I had a meeting with my staff every 2 weeks. Now we've moved that to every 1 week so that we can stay in touch. Meetings are definitely productive and move faster and very efficiently. The idea is to just not let too much time pass without us checking in with each other and holding each other accountable. And if your nonprofit just doesn't have staff, then you should still be doing this with your core group of volunteers and your board of directors. It's just a really good idea. Your board ideally is showing leadership right now and helping guide the direction of the organization to pivot, to manage this situation well. But you in a leadership position also need to be making sure that you're in touch with your board and keeping them apprised of all situations very regularly. The fifth tip and strategy I have for you for surviving this pandemic as a nonprofit is this. If your mission has slowed down because the services you're able to offer, you can't offer them anymore, or the materials you needed to implement your mission, you can't get them anymore, whatever the reason. If your mission work has slowed down, now is the perfect time to be devoting more energy and time to training and research and strategic planning. No one knows what the world is going to look like, but you can at least be absorbing it all, taking the pulse of your community, of the people you're trying to serve, and start formulating a plan. Research new potential funding streams that are less reliant on events, which of course we know are heavily impacted by pandemics. Trying out virtual fundraisers, trying to attract more small donors. Maybe your donor base can no longer give as much as they were able to, but they might still be able to give a little bit. So how can you build that initiative up? Take this time now to be planning so that when all of this starts to get better, you will be in a great position to lead change in your community. This also applies to your programs. How might you adjust what your programs are doing to be more resistant to future outbreaks? If you have classes or trainings as part of your nonprofit's work, can they be done virtually? What are the barriers to that, and how can you work through those now? If your nonprofit work involves outdoors work or something involving hunger or food distribution, what are the ways you can put safety protocols in place to allow volunteers to still support you and keep things moving? I know our local food bank has done a great job of practicing safe and socially distanced volunteering while they're trying to keep up with the demand, which is even greater right now. But the sixth and final tip that I have for you is probably the most important one, and it's kind of reiterating what I said before, and that now is the time to focus on your relationships. And not just your relationships with your donors and supporters and volunteers, but also with your team members and your board and just people in the community. You can form new relationships right now. One of the silver linings of this whole situation is, I think everyone feels this, we are feeling more connected emotionally than ever to others. We're realizing that we need each other. We're trying to figure out how we can help each other out. We're checking in with each other. So build on that. Form those relationships so that they will last past whatever is going to happen next, and you all can emerge from this stronger together. That's all I got. Thank you so much. Once again, I'm Amber Melanie Smith, and I make these videos here on YouTube fairly regularly. Hopefully I'll get back to a once a week schedule. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel, and of course share this video with anyone who might find it useful. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.